You know, when someone with avoidant tendencies pulls away, our first instinct is to chase, to prove ourselves, to show them how much they're losing. But here's the hard truth: chasing never makes an avoidant value you. It convinces them they can have you without showing up for you. If you want an avoidant to recognize your worth, the shift has to begin with you, not them. The moment you stop trying to convince them and start living as if you are already worth choosing, everything changes. You're no longer the person waiting for their validation. You become the person they suddenly feel lucky to even be near. An avoidant fears emotional closeness because they fear losing their independence. So when you pull your energy back and create emotional space, you remove the pressure they fear, and ironically, that's when they start noticing the gap your presence used to fill. But here's the crucial part: don't create distance as a tactic to lure them back. Do it because you genuinely refuse to shrink yourself for someone who won't meet you halfway. Let them see you living fully, investing in your passions, surrounded by people who cherish you. That contrast quietly reminds them you were never the one who needed them, they were the one lucky to have you. And if they don't come back, it's not because you weren't enough, it's because they weren't ready to hold something valuable. Your worth doesn't rise or fall based on their ability to recognize it. Sometimes the most powerful way to trigger realization is to simply stop auditioning for a role you already own. When someone with avoidant tendencies starts to pull away, the most common reaction is to panic and chase them. It's human nature to want to close the gap, to explain ourselves, to convince them that we are worth staying for. But this instinct, though well-meaning, actually pushes them further away. Chasing communicates one powerful message: I don't believe I'm enough as I am, so I need you to validate me. An avoidant person is already wired to fear emotional closeness. When they feel someone trying to pull them in, their reflex is to push back. So every time you move toward them with desperation, they move further away, and the cycle becomes exhausting. The way to break this cycle isn't by trying harder to prove your worth to them, it's by proving it to yourself first. Stopping the chase doesn't mean ignoring them with coldness or playing games. It means reclaiming your energy and attention from someone who isn't consistently choosing you. It means saying through your actions, not your words, I know who I am, and I know what I bring to someone's life. That subtle shift is powerful. When you're no longer trying to be chosen, you start to act like someone who is already valuable, and people respond to that energy. It creates an aura of quiet confidence, the kind that naturally draws respect. An avoidant is far more likely to notice your worth when you stop asking them to. It's counterintuitive, but when you let go of proving yourself, you become magnetic. Self-worth isn't about arrogance. It's about remembering that your value isn't determined by who stays or leaves. It's built on how you treat yourself, the boundaries you hold, and the life you create regardless of anyone else's opinion. When you stop chasing, you give yourself permission to redirect all the energy you were spending on them into you. You begin to pour it into your own happiness, growth, and well-being. And this creates a new dynamic. You're no longer the person standing still hoping they'll return. You're the person walking forward, and they're the one left deciding whether to keep up or fall behind. What makes this shift even more powerful is that it removes the pressure they feel from you. An avoidant fears being consumed, and when you stop reaching for them, they can breathe again. Ironically, that's usually when they begin to wonder about you. They notice your silence, they notice the absence of your attention. They start to think about what life would actually be like without you in it. That curiosity grows not because you forced it, but because you stopped trying. And if they don't return, you still win because you never abandoned yourself in the process. You stopped chasing not to manipulate their behavior, but to honor your own worth. And that decision will always be more powerful than anything you could ever say to them. Creating space with an avoidant partner is not about building walls or punishing them with silence. It's about giving both of you room to breathe without resentment or pressure. Avoidants often pull back because closeness feels threatening, not because they don't care. Their nervous system interprets emotional intensity as danger, so when they sense someone becoming too emotionally dependent on them, they instinctively retreat. If you respond to this by pushing harder or demanding closeness, they feel trapped and their instinct to withdraw only strengthens. The key is to take a step back in a way that doesn't add tension or drama, but instead brings calm and neutrality into the space between you. When you create space, you're not abandoning them, you're simply releasing the pressure. You allow them to experience what it feels like to miss your presence without attaching guilt or obligation to it. That difference matters. If your distance comes with accusations or emotional punishments, they will only associate your presence with stress. But if your space comes from a place of peace and self-respect, it feels different. It shows them that you can hold your own emotional balance without needing them to manage it for you. This makes you emotionally safer in their eyes, which ironically makes them more open to reconnecting. This space also serves an important purpose for you. It allows you to step out of the emotional whirlwind and see the relationship more clearly. When you're no longer hyper, focused on getting them to respond, you can notice whether their behavior actually aligns with what you want and deserve. Sometimes we get so caught up in trying to hold on to someone that we stop asking whether they are truly showing up for us. Stepping back gives you the emotional clarity to see their actions for what they are, not what you hope they might become. Giving space is also about shifting your energy back into your own life. Instead of waiting anxiously for a message or a sign, you fill your days with the things that bring you joy and fulfillment. This change is magnetic. It signals that your happiness isn't tied to their closeness, which eases their fear of losing themselves in the relationship. They can approach you without feeling like your emotional well-being depends on them. This sense of freedom makes it safer for them to move closer rather than further away. Most importantly, space is not a manipulation tactic. It's not about pretending to be busy so they'll chase you. It's about truly detaching from the need to control their behavior. You create emotional space because you respect yourself enough not to cling and because you respect them enough to let them come toward you on their own terms. That calm detachment is often the very thing that makes an avoidant start to see your value more clearly. They notice that being with you doesn't cost them their freedom, and that realization can quietly shift everything. Detaching from the outcome is one of the most powerful shifts you can make when dealing with an avoidant partner because it removes the invisible pressure that often drives them away. When you're constantly hoping, waiting, and predicting what they might do next, you unintentionally communicate that your happiness hinges on their behavior. This creates a subtle tension that avoidants are highly sensitive to. They can feel when they are being emotionally relied upon to provide a sense of worth, and for someone who fears emotional entanglement, that pressure feels overwhelming. By detaching from the outcome, you send a completely different message, one that says, I care about you, but I'm okay with or without you. That energy is liberating for both of you. Detachment is not coldness or indifference. It's about holding space for your feelings while releasing the need to control what happens next. You still love and care, but you stop gripping the relationship so tightly. This shift creates an emotional safety net for you. Instead of spiraling every time they pull back or seem distant, you remind yourself that your worth isn't defined by their closeness. You begin to see their distance as information, not rejection. It's just a reflection of where they are emotionally, not a verdict on your value. This mindset keeps you grounded and stops you from reacting with desperation or panic. What makes detachment so powerful is how it changes your behavior. When you're no longer emotionally invested in getting a certain outcome, you stop overanalyzing their every text or mood. You stop trying to impress them or earn their love because you recognize that real love isn't earned through performance, it's given freely. This calm confidence often creates a subtle shift in how they see you. Instead of viewing you as someone who is waiting for their approval, they start seeing you as someone who stands firmly in your own life, someone they could lose if they don't step up. Ironically, the moment you stop needing them to choose you is often when they start seriously considering it. Detaching from the outcome also allows you to reclaim your emotional energy. The constant mental loops, wondering if they'll commit, fearing they won't, drain your spirit. When you let go of the need for a specific ending, you free that energy to pour into yourself. You can focus on your goals, your friendships, and your personal growth without the weight of uncertainty holding you back. This makes you more magnetic, not less, because people are naturally drawn to those who are fulfilled and self-sufficient. You become a person who adds to their life, not someone trying to complete it, and that difference is deeply attractive to someone who fears being consumed by a relationship. Ultimately, detachment gives you peace. It means you're in the relationship by choice, not by need. You can enjoy what's good without clinging, and you can walk away if it stops being good without feeling destroyed. That quiet strength often does what no amount of chasing ever could. It makes them see your value clearly because it shows you see it first. Letting an avoidant see you living your full life publicly is one of the most powerful and subtle ways to remind them of your worth. When someone has avoidant tendencies, they often convince themselves that they don't need closeness or deep emotional connection. They tell themselves they're fine on their own and that relationships only bring pressure or loss of freedom. But when they see you thriving without trying to pull them closer, it quietly challenges that belief. It forces them to confront the reality that your happiness was never dependent on them, and that your world doesn't stop moving just because they've stepped back. This realization plants a seed of curiosity and sometimes even regret, because they begin to see you not as someone waiting for them, but as someone they could lose. Living your full life doesn't mean flaunting achievements or pretending to be happy to get a reaction. It means genuinely investing in the things that make you feel alive, inspired, and fulfilled. It's choosing to prioritize your passions, friendships, and personal growth even when part of you is hurting. It's saying, "My life has meaning whether or not you are part of it." That message speaks louder than any words could. Avoidants are drawn to strength and independence, not neediness. When they see you engaged in your life, surrounded by people who value you, they begin to see you through a new lens, not as someone chasing them, but as someone who is already valued by others. That social proof subtly elevates your perceived worth in their mind. This doesn't mean posting curated snapshots of happiness just to provoke jealousy. Inauthentic displays rarely have impact because they're easy to see through. What resonates deeply is the natural glow that comes from real joy and purpose. When you're genuinely fulfilled, it shows in your energy, your tone, and your presence. You become warmer, lighter, and more confident, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you're deeply connected to your own life. That authentic vibrancy is magnetic, and avoidants often find themselves drawn back toward it without fully understanding why. Another reason this approach works is that it shifts the emotional balance between you. When you were focused on them, they felt like the center of your world, which can be overwhelming for someone who fears losing themselves in a relationship. But when they see that they are not your entire source of joy, the fear eases. They realize that being with you won't mean giving up their autonomy, because you clearly maintain your own. This makes it emotionally safer for them to approach you again. They're not being asked to carry your happiness. They're being invited to share in it. And even if they don't come closer, living your full life still transforms you. It builds your confidence, strengthens your self-worth, and shows you that love is something you choose to give, not something you have to chase. The irony is that the more you focus on living fully for yourself, the more others, avoidant or not, start to see just how valuable you truly are. Walking away with grace is one of the most powerful demonstrations of self-worth you can ever give, especially when dealing with someone who has avoidant tendencies. Avoidants often expect others to cling, to fight for their attention, or to prove their love endlessly. When you choose to step away calmly instead of pleading for their presence, it disrupts that entire pattern. It shows them something they don't expect, that your love is a choice, not a dependency. This quiet strength speaks louder than any argument or ultimatum ever could, because it shifts the dynamic from needing them to choosing yourself. It's not about slamming the door or making a dramatic exit. It's about showing that you can walk away without resentment because you know your value doesn't depend on whether they recognize it. Graceful detachment is rooted in dignity. It means leaving with your head held high, not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring enough about yourself to stop accepting less than you deserve. When you walk away from someone who isn't meeting your emotional needs, you're teaching them something vital. Love is not about tolerating emotional neglect. It's about mutual effort and respect. Avoidants may not respond well to emotional pressure, but they do notice when someone they took for granted quietly disappears. That silence echoes. It gives them space to feel the loss, to sit with the reality that they are no longer being chosen by someone who once offered their heart so openly. And often, it's that space that finally forces them to reflect. Walking away gracefully doesn't mean cutting them off harshly or trying to make them feel guilty. It's about leaving with compassion for both yourself and them. You don't need to prove they were wrong or convince them to change. You simply remove yourself from the dynamic, trusting that the right people will never make you question your worth. This kind of exit has an emotional clarity to it. It's not reactive, it's intentional. It tells them you are strong enough to let go, even if it hurts, because holding on to someone who can't show up fully costs more than it gives. This act also heals you. Choosing to leave a connection that isn't nurturing frees you from the endless loop of hope and disappointment. It gives you back your energy, your peace, and your focus. Instead of waiting for someone to realize your value, you start living in a way that reflects it. That shift is magnetic. People who once saw you as constant and available begin to see you as rare and irreplaceable. It reframes the story. They are no longer the one who left. They are the one who got left behind by someone powerful enough to walk away. Even if they never come back, you still win, because you didn't lose yourself trying to keep them. You proved that your love is a gift, not a guarantee, and that you won't stay where you are not truly valued. That quiet, graceful strength lingers in their memory far longer than desperation ever could. So, as you step back from chasing, create space without tension, detach from outcomes, live fully for yourself, and walk away with grace if needed, remember this. Your worth was never something to be earned from someone else, it was always yours. The moment you stop trying to prove it, you become the kind of person no one wants to lose. Thank you for listening, and may you always choose yourself first, because that is where true love begins.